Good evening, Mr. Council Member Toby Gilley has our prayer and pledge. Mr. Gilley.
Thank you, Mayor. If you bow with me, please. Dear God, our most loving Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful day you've given us and this wonderful city in which we live. Dear Father, tonight as we come together to make decisions for this great city, please give us your wisdom in doing so. In the name of your Son we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the Murfreesboro City Council, July 1st, 2010. We have guests with us tonight. We certainly welcome guests and are always happy to have folks come and visit while our council meetings are going on. We have persons from our Boy Scout Troop 320 in Rockvale, Tennessee. Jaguar Clemon, George Michael Huddick, and Tommy Boa are here. Why don't you all stand up and let us recognize you? Very good. We're glad you're here tonight, and thank you. They are working on a citizenship in the community merit badge, and Julie Huddick, who is a merit badge counselor, and Anna Boa, who is a committee member over advancement, are both here with them, and we appreciate your stewardship and taking care of these young men, and I know it'll be an outstanding experience for them, and we'll try to keep the meeting short tonight so you won't have to stay out too long. We did get to participate in the grand opening of our new pool and water feature at SportsCom today. It was an outstanding success. There were probably a couple of hundred people out there standing in line waiting to purchase entrance tickets, and I know they all had a great time, and there are a lot of different water features, so I think every member of the family can enjoy that new pool. And it's open, and if you are interested in going out there, I think 4th of July would be a great night to go swimming and watch the fireworks and do all that. So it's really a very nice feature, and I want to thank our Parks and Recreation staff and those folks who had so much to do with it. Nate Williams, who's our aquatic coordinator, and they were all prepared and ready to go. And I've got a little instruction. There's 2 tubes out there to slide down. The blue one doesn't have any opening on it, so when you go down it, it's very fast. And the red one does have an opening, and it's a little slower, probably made for people my speed. And so that's just a little teaser to get you out there. I think you'll enjoy our new water park at SportsCom. So take advantage of that if you will. I also have received from the town of Smyrna a resolution signed by all of their members of their council commending the city of Murfreesboro for the help that we sent to Smyrna during the May 1st and 2nd flooding event, and for the time after that they needed us. It was a very kind resolution. Certainly we were very happy that we were able to provide that service to them at the time, and we do appreciate that resolution coming to us outlining and commending us for the city of Murfreesboro's efforts. So, Mr. Lyons, if you will take that to the employees, I think that will be an excellent reminder of their outstanding service delivered to a nearby community.
I'd be glad to, Mayor. In fact, you'll recall during the Good Friday tornado, the town of Smyrna forces were here helping us, and that's what makes this a great community. Everybody helps everybody.
Very good. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, council members, you have before you your consent agenda. If you've had an opportunity to look through that, are there any questions, or are you ready for a motion on the consent agenda?
Hearing no questions, Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll. Ms. Wright?
Mr. Gilley?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mayor Bragg?
Aye. You also have the minutes of the meeting held on June 10th, 2010 before you. If you've had an opportunity to read through those, are there any corrections, additions, or deletions?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes as presented. for June 10th. Please call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland. Mr. Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. This time we'll consider for passage on third and final reading an ordinance to rezone an area along Franklin Road to a commercial fringe CF district.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Again, on third reading, we'll consider for passage an ordinance to amend Appendix A zoning Chart 1 pertaining to zoning uses in general office OG and general office residential districts to add additional uses as a matter of right and by special use permits.
So moved.
Second.
All right, hearing a motion second, please call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider for passage now on third and final reading an ordinance to rezone an area including 32 parcels south of East Clark Boulevard and along Dow Street, Highland Terrace, and North Highland Avenue to General Office District Residential OGR District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. This time we will consider for passage on third and final reading an ordinance to rezone an area including 3 parcels to General Office Residential OGR District and 13 parcels to General Office Residential OGR District located west of North Highland Avenue and south of Roberts Street.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. This time we'll consider for passage on third and final reading an ordinance to rezone an area including 29 parcels located west of North Highland Avenue and along Lee Street, North Manny Avenue, Bell Street, and East Burton Street to General Office District Residential OGR District.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. This time we'll consider recommendations of the Water and Sewer Department with regards to an ordinance and accompanying resolutions. Mr. Kirchner, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. This is really old business in that this is ordinance 08022 we started back in 2007 working on, and this is our pre-treatment ordinance, that it's a requirement by federal and state regulations. In 2005, the federal government made changes. They called them streamlining. As you can see, it didn't streamline a lot for us, but we were one of the very first pre-treatment programs in the state, and at that, we had established our pre-treatment ordinance, and as the state and federal government pursued their regulations and requirements, they came up with their standards, and then the state has a model sewer use ordinance. So these changes basically put us in line with the standard definitions and procedurals of the general requirements of the federal and state. The local ordinance can't be less restrictive than the state or the federal ordinance. So we're pretty much in line with their model ordinance. A lot of the comments we received from TDEC were referring to their model use ordinance and definitions and references, and so we tried to make it as close as possible to theirs. In fact, there's a 12-page checklist we've gone through, and I'll be glad to share that with you if you'd like to go through it. But basically, what you have before you this evening is the ordinance that has been tracked with track changes, and it gives you all the changes that have been made since second reading. Changes to the ordinance additions are underlined, and all the deletions are listed in the right margin. And With this, there are 3 companion resolutions, and that we're taking some of the numeric numbers out of the ordinance and putting them into resolution form in order to make it a little bit easier to modify those as needed. Basically, those are our sewer user charges for monitoring. There are plant protection criteria in addition to our surcharges. But I'll be happy to answer any questions or any comments you'd like to have on the changes that are in this ordinance. And the first order of business would be to amend the ordinance prior to third reading, amend the ordinance as presented.
All right, you have these recommendations of the Water and Sewer Department with regards to this ordinance and several accompanying resolutions. Are there any questions or comments regarding any of these items or the recommendation?
Need separate motions for each of the enumerated items?
Yes.
Yes, and the first one should be to
Amend.
amend the ordinance prior to voting on third reading.
So moved.
Second.
All right, you have a motion to amend and a second. Any questions? Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. You'll consider now for adoption a resolution regarding Murfreesboro Water and
Excuse me.
Sewer Department.
Excuse me, Mayor, this now should be item B, passage on third and final reading of the amended ordinance.
I understand. Thank you. All right, then we will consider for passage on third and final reading this amended ordinance for the Murfreesboro City Code, Chapter 33, Waters and Sewers, Article 3, Sewer Usage and Specifications, Section 33.1, 33.2, 33.33, 33.34, 33.35, 33.36, 33.37, 39, 40, 42, dealing with sewers. Is there a motion?
Would you repeat that?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland.
You're welcome.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Now we'll consider for adoption a resolution regarding Murfreesboro Water and Sewer Department surcharges and user fees for excessive and extraordinary strength.
And these are, as I said, that we're taken from the ordinance and into a resolution form. The ordinary strength of waste for these parameters are defined. If it's found to be excessive above those, then a industry can be charged at those rates. This increases it. 33 increases the excessive strength surcharge and also the extraordinary strength surcharge. For the most part, most all the industries pre-treat, and there's only one or two that might have a surcharge. If they they can not pre-treat and discharge. They just have to pay that discharge. But there are several that do pre-treat and save thousands of dollars in these surcharges by their pre-treatment, but they invested that into their pre-treatment system. So basically, this is to cover our cost if they chose to discharge a strength more excessive than what normal and ordinary domestic waste would consist of.
All right. Thanks for that explanation. Any other questions regarding this resolution?
Questions, Mayor? I move for adoption.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt the resolution. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. At this time, we'll consider for adoption a resolution regarding Murfreesboro Water and Sewer Department Plant Protection Criteria Table.
This basically is the plant protection criteria taken straight from the ordinance. We deleted it from there and added to this resolution. However, each permit cycle, our NPDES permit cycle, we have to evaluate our plant protection criteria, so it is currently under review. So we would expect sometime before our new permit, we'll be coming back with either revisions or it could go up or down depending on our sampling. We have to do a series of samples over time, and from that, submit our findings to the state. They review it, and then we set our plant protection criteria. This is to protect from mainly metals that could be discharged to the system and hurt the biological system. So it's exactly what it says. It is a plant protection in that, and this is adopting that table.
All right, you have that explanation for this resolution regarding the plant protection criteria. Is there a motion we accept the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. At this time, we'll consider for adoption a resolution regarding industrial user sewer fees for the Murfreesboro Water and Sewer Department. Mr. Kirchner?
This is the final table that was taken out of the ordinance, and basically it's just the schedule of charges that we make to industries for doing their sampling and testing. There's very little change in that in the sampling and cost of that, as far as the dollar-wise to the industry.
All right, any further questions?
No questions, Mayor. I move for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
All right, you have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye.
There's one final item that's in the letter, and that is that their companion to the ordinance, it references in Section 3336U10 an enforcement response plan that's required for us to have, and we currently have one, and we've had to modify that and edit it to agree with the ordinance as was amended. So we would ask that you approve the enforcement response plan that's appended to the ordinance this evening, and I have several copies if there were very few changes to it.
Enforcement response plan?
Plan, yes, sir.
All right. Council members like to see a copy of that?
Yeah. Joe, why don't you let us have it? Do you have copies?
Mr. Gilly, as the member of the Water and Sewer Board, we're going to give you the responsibility to peruse this document.
Can he explain it as well?
Probably not.
20 words or less?
Is the 8-lot rule invoked? Is that?
Yeah.
The pages were on changes were on page 18. Basically,
I'll share.
I gave it to office.
to the definitions.
18.
First, I may be missing something, but mine goes from 17 to 19.
Well, I think it was supposed to double-side it. Does it have it?
Anybody else?
No, nobody's got those.
Okay. Well,
There's one in this one, if I can get it back.
okay.
Those in there.
I did my own copying.
Operator issues.
Yeah.
Memo to
Here, these.
self.
Note to
Here's
self.
another.
So these all deal with violations and non-compliance.
Yeah, it's basically our procedure we would go through, and we, on page 18 is the state has a technical review criteria that we follow, and this basically references that definition, and also for what is defined as a chronic violation, or definitions that we use from the general pretreatment regulations and the model sewer use ordinance from the state.
All right, any further questions of Mr. Kirchner regarding this enforcement response plan that's a part of his ordinance?
No, Mayor, I move we approve the recommendation.
Second.
All right, you have a motion second to approve this industrial pretreatment enforcement response plan. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirchner. Is there any beer permits tonight?
No, sir, not tonight.
All right. You have before you a list of statements to be paid. Are there any questions regarding any of the items on the list of bills to be paid, or is there a motion to pay these bills?
So move.
Second?
A motion and second to pay the bills. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. I have no board and commission appointments for this evening. Is there any other business from the council or the staff to come before the council at this time? If not, you're adjourned.